Welcome into another Soccer Down here 1v1. I'm Jason Longshore, and as we're getting to know the U.S. Soccer Extended National Team, some news breaking here recently with Ian Carey being appointed as the new head coach of the U.S. Men's Beach National Team. And we get a chance to learn a little bit more about that program and kind of what the next timeline looks like with Ian today. Thanks for taking some time for us. We appreciate it.
No, Jason, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak on your podcast,
So tell me a little bit about, you were the interim in the last competition for the team and that process of becoming the interim, then getting the job on a full-time basis in a World Cup cycle, getting ready for a tournament next year.
Yeah, and it's people might, again, if you don't know the beach soccer world and you're just, you're seeing it now, it's getting a lot of publicity, whether it be on Fox, ESPN, etc. The team is growing, the team is getting better, the team is going in the right direction, etc. Right now, I started with the team back in October 2022 as an assistant coach, just primarily going in and working with Chris Toth and Austin Collier, the two goalkeepers that were in at the time. So that was my introduction to U.S. beach soccer. Going in was in a training camp in October 22 in Fort Lauderdale, a trip to Barcelona in February where we played Spain twice. Then got together, we went to El Salvador, playing the El Salvador, which was the qualifiers for the World Beach Games in Bali, where we won that tournament in El Salvador. So I've been part of that staff for probably close to about a year and three quarters, nearly 2 years. Again, with them, went to Concacaf to qualify for the World Cup. Unfortunately, didn't personally get to the World Cup. Mislaid my green card, couldn't leave the country because I couldn't get back in, and we were waiting on a new one. But again, you couldn't put U.S. soccer in that position of holding the seat on a plane, etc. So didn't end up going to the World Cup. Followed it very closely here from home. Disappointed as a group, the guys were, as a team, disappointed with the results. But things change within those cycles. Again, US soccer have expectations in regards to, results, getting out of groups, etc., etc. There are demands that are on the staff. So unfortunately, there was a change. Fortunately for me, I got a phone call and was asked to come in as the interim, knowing that I was coming in only for this trip to El Salvador. That was already on the calendar. This was something that was already on the calendar. So Stuart Sharp and Jim Morehouse reached out and they were like, can you come in as the interim? And I'm like, absolutely. Now, going to El Salvador, regardless, it's a difficult place to go and play. It's a cauldron. There's 4,000 people right on top of you. The music is pumping, especially when you're playing the host, etc. So you knew from being there a year previously, I knew exactly what we were as a group getting ourselves into. Then, no disrespect again to the roster that we were trying to put together to bring over, we were missing probably 5 to 6 of those more veteran senior players.
Right.
The indoor professional league, right, was coming into its playoffs. So you're missing probably 3 starters, possibly 4 starters from your starting 5 from that. So again, you're building that roster. So we went over and unfortunately, sickness hit everybody from the staff all the way through. We played our first game. I think we had a depth of 7 out of 12 players, 8 out of 12 players that were in any way capable to give us an elite performance on the sand. By the second game rolled in, we played El Salvador, we beat them, and you could hear a pin drop. And you could see that sort of growth even of this, I don't want to call them inexperienced, but a group of players that, again, hadn't played together. Right. This was, maybe 4 or 5 of them had been in among each other within the international setup, but they hadn't played at this level, at this elite level as a group in the past. So, you're getting the confidence from that. And then you go out the next day against Morocco and you score 4 goals past them. And all of a sudden you could see some growth. So coming home from that, the usual, you sit down with US Soccer and you have a debrief. They've already spoke to the staff. They've already spoke to players. And for me, the debrief I felt was positive. And at the end of it, they were like, well, we're opening up the job tomorrow. Would this be something that you would be interested in? Now, coming from Europe, Scotland, where I lived for 10 years, played and coached, back to the Republic of Ireland, where I'm from, played and coached. I've been with the national teams at elite levels. This was like ripping off the Band-Aid. It was like, I want this again. Like
Right.
it just got that buzz just for the infrastructure that was in place and the opportunity with this very talented group. When you got this full group together, I'm thinking to myself, you've got a high possibility, and we'll speak about goals and objectives as we go through the podcast, but I'm thinking, you could put yourself in a position to apply for this job. And if you're successful, possibly be the first coach to take this team to a World Cup and out of the group stage, knowing that the talent, and again, go back to the investment that US soccer are putting into the ENTs, especially beach soccer. So that was sort of my going from introductory in 2022 into the interim, and now, blessed to say the head coach and leading this national team.
I got to ask you about kind of the links to get to beach specifically, and for you and for players as well, because people might not know how you go out and recruit players, kind of what it looks like to bring guys in. You played professionally, you coach, you're the director of goalkeeping at the Charlotte Soccer Academy. You've played futsal as well, and you mentioned indoor players here in the MASL. What is it? What are the differences between an outdoor player, an indoor player, whether it's futsal or the American indoor, and then beach? What are you looking for in players to make that process?
So I think exactly when you're talking about that 11v11 grass player, they're going to show you all the technical, tactical attributes, right? Much larger game, not as much time on the ball, etc. Then for me, so my transition from the 11v11 game into futsal, being a goalkeeper myself, my transition then from futsal or the 11-a-side game into beach just felt so natural. Like rotations, formation, substitutions, the goalkeeper being the person who's really the quarterback on your team, starting every single play. Then you're going to look at what's your player model, right? So you talk about the indoor. Well, the indoor professional league, there's 5 players among that group right now that are core players within the beach community. They, when they're off season from the indoor, that indoor keeps them sharp, keeps them fit. It's a small-sided game. They've got a lot of touches on the ball. They need to be able to keep control of the ball. Then when you look at your player model, what we're looking for now to continue the growth of this team, you're looking for size. You're looking for really high technical ability, right? You're looking for the ability to hold on to a ball, the ability from a goalkeeping standpoint, handling, distribution. Like you go back and we talk about the quarterback, the goalkeeper has to have some of the cleanest feet on the planet and able to go and play this, plus also have an arm on him or her in the women's game.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
To have that distribution. And when you think about the length of the sand court, being able to find those players in those key positions based upon a rotation of movement of players, and then that player to be able to hold on to it. Then the technical aspect, can they put the ball in the air? Are they agile enough to be able to bike a ball? So there's all those attributes depending on how you want and your style that you want to play. From a recruitment standpoint, the beach community really in the United States, the beach community really is in 4 major hubs around the country. You've got one in the San Francisco Bay Area. So you'll have Santa Cruz and San Francisco. Then you'll have San Diego Oceanside. Mm-hmm. Then you're going to have the Miami Fort Lauderdale. And then you've got Virginia Beach. So they're your 4 main hubs. Now, all of those hubs have that community playing all the time. There's tournaments. They're getting a lot more exposure. And that's our job now to go and help. So from a recruitment standpoint, coming into the position of head coach and sitting down with Stuart Sharp, etc., how can we grow it? How can we grow the sport? Right? We see beach soccer as an unbelievable way of extending somebody's career. Yeah. Whether it be coming straight out of the college game, right? Get yourself on the sand. Can you do it on the sand? Maybe you can, maybe you can't, right? Coming out of the MLS, coming out of USL, Again, we mentioned we've got 4 or 5 players playing in the professional indoor league. Try it on the sand. See, can we grow it in that way? And if they can do it on the sand, it's only going to create more teams. It's going to create more competition. Then it allows myself and a staff, etc., to go into these areas and these hubs to be able to go and recruit these players. So now, over the next month and a half, from a recruiting standpoint. So, but prior to my Charlotte Soccer Academy life, I was in the college world here in the United States.
Yeah.
And recruitment was, that's your life, right? Yeah. You're out on the road all the time, 24/7. You're never off a phone, etc. Right? So now, knowing that logistically going from here to the West Coast and back on the same day, catching a red eye, it's a walk in the park. But it's also, you've got to do it.
Yeah.
Right? If you want your team to be successful, or if you want your discipline, your program to grow, you need to go above and beyond and do these things. So now the plan for myself and my staff is to go into these areas, pre-planned 2-3 weeks in advance, that they know, hey, by the way, the national team staff are coming over to watch our training and some games tonight. And whether we stay for a day, whether we stay for 2 days, and we go and watch, and at that way, we're able to evaluate many more numbers rather than looking at, oh, this is our roster availability, or this is our pool right now. Let's bring in 18 players and work with them. Well, you can go and hit 20 to 25 players in each of these hubs, and all of a sudden you've seen 100 players rather than film feedback on players that you would bring in. So you're realistically right now, it's going through every single area that there's beach soccer with a fine tooth comb to find the best player that's available, but also the integration of players that we feel fit our player profile that we are introducing to the game of beach.
Right.
To see, okay, can you transition from the 11v11 game, from the indoor game onto the sand? And if we can create that, then all of a sudden our program, like around the country, grows. US soccer, with the backing that they're giving us, are seeing success based upon the player pool getting bigger, the competition of that player pool getting bigger. And when we go onto the sand to play in these international games, results should follow with the high level of competition that you're bringing to the table.
With that player pool growing now, and you really putting a lot of time with your staff into kind of expanding that player pool, what were your takeaways from the El Salvador tournament, and kind of how that helps you prepare for Concacaf, which is your next competition on the docket?
It sort of gave us an idea of, regardless of who was there, areas that we need to, one, be more disciplined, right? And players need to understand whether it's Chris Toth in goal or it's Austin Collier in goal, or whoever else steps up to that plate, right? You cannot rely on your goalkeeper. Like Chris Toth and Austin Collier have bailed the team out on numerous occasions based upon the quality that they have. Like for people who don't know the beach world, you concede a free kick, you foul anywhere on the sand, and it's a direct kick at goal. And everybody moves out of the way, and it's up to your goalkeeper to pull off a world save. Whereas we know ball hits the sand, deflection goes anywhere. So you're relying on that goalkeeper to bail you out. So straight off the bat, it was discipline, right? Giving away these silly little free kicks that, again, can cost you. If you can negate away from that and install that piece, that was an eye-opener in El Salvador. Like, we scored some unbelievable goals in combination play. And, we went into it not with, hey, let's put a new structure in place, right? Because we didn't have time, right?
Yeah.
We had one training session in El Salvador that we really only had 8-9 players available because of sickness, and then expect to go. And so it was, don't reinvent the wheel, but these were a couple of key areas that are non-negotiables. Mm-hmm. If I was the head coach, as an interim, this is what I want. And one was discipline. Did we meet that goal? No, I think we gave away some silly goals from giving away silly free kicks, right? And then a structure. you go back and we go back and have a look at the results of the World Cup. You know, you go 1-0 down to Italy, and then you come back into the game 1-1, and you're just losing out on that. Italy go to the final. They're the second best team in the world right now, and they lose to Brazil in the final. That's how close a team can be when it comes onto the sand. You know, the game changes like that. We're playing Morocco and we're losing 3-0 going into the third period. And all of a sudden, bang, we score a goal, bang, we score a goal, bang, we score a goal, and you're back in it. You know, once you score one, the momentum shifts so quickly. And it's just such a fast-paced game. But what do we learn? We need to be more disciplined. We need to be more disciplined. I felt we were relentless in front of goal. We combined and scored some fantastic goals while we were there. And it's an encouragement for the guys that was maybe not there in quite a while. It was their first time back into a roster. There's a little bit of a, hey, I want to get back in among this right now. And then for the guys that were there, they know that they need to be on their toes, because if we want to grow this player pool, as a list is going to be sent out of who's going to be included, I want them to be nervous, right? I don't want them it's a given. Hey, by the way,
right.
I know I'm going to be included. Hey, keep working your tail off. But for sure, the discipline piece was one that we definitely need to work on. On the attacking side of the game, I was really happy. As I said, some of the goals that we scored were fantastic from big names, and then guys that wanted to make a name for themselves, guys that were given opportunities. Like, nobody feared the opposition when it was first of maybe 5-6 international caps that they had. So I took great pride in the result against El Salvador. You know, El Salvador are a team, especially at home, that the expectations on them is huge in their country. And the crowds that come to watch, as I said, there were 4,000 people. And
that's awesome.
You could hear a pin drop, Jason. You could hear a pin drop. And that's my second time experiencing it. You know, and you're a little bit nervous going in against them, because, again, it's like they're heroes in their country. Absolutely. You're seeing billboards. As you're driving to the stadium, you're seeing billboards with their faces on them. And then all of a sudden, you have a team that you put together that go out there, and they were fantastic. They were fantastic. So the joy that brought and the heart that I saw that those guys put together was infectious for sure. And something that we need to continue to install to build towards Concacaf and hopefully a World Cup at the Seychelles.
We talk so much about like game models and philosophies of play. For people who don't know the beach game as much, like, kind of describe how you want your team to play.
Very hard. Regardless, if you're talking about 11v11, 9v9, 7v7, all the way down grassroots soccer, then you're indoor, futsal, whatever you want to be very, very difficult to break down. Mm-hmm. Right? So straight off the bat, and again, you're playing 5-a-side, goalkeeper and 4 field players. So whether your shape is going to be a 2-2, whether you're going to play a 3-1, you need to go back to that word discipline. You need to be so disciplined and organized so that you can, as you said, you have to be so difficult to break down. Then you've got to be also brave, right? So the game of beach, when the ball is driven into your target forward and your target forward pops it up into the air for a bike, you cannot physically touch that person. Okay. If you touch that person and they're inside the goalkeeping area, the third, it's a penalty. If it's outside, it's a free kick, direct free kick, shot on goal. So you got to be brave to go and jump up with them. 9 times out of 10, guys will turn their back but stay as tall as they can and let the ball hit them. You've got to be willing to put your body on the line. So how do we want to be seen with a game model? How do we want to be known as? Well, again, very, very difficult to break down, but also relentless in the final third. I've seen so many teams play, whether it's a similar style of what the US have been playing over the last number of years, or a style that, again, isn't their own and they get caught out. Like we're not going to be a Brazil. We're going to be the US, right? We're going to have our way of playing. And the player pool and the player profile that we look for is what's going to create our game model, right? So now you're looking at these little, okay, and tactically, who can fit in different times within games, depending on what the score is, how we're wanting to keep the ball. If we want to move the ball, fast, we might have to change the person who's there. If you want to hold the ball up, it all depends on who. And so very difficult to break down. Relentless in front of goal, but in front of goal is from everywhere. You can shoot. You see the goal. Chris Toth has scored numerous goals throughout his year as a goalkeeper, right? And that's based again tactically of our field players moving, open up the space for him to drive with the ball and get a shot off. We want to be exciting, but we have to be disciplined. And you could see it even when I go back and look back at the games from the World Cup. The guys put themselves in some fantastic positions. And then when it broke down, they got caught out in transitional moments.
Yeah.
And that's where we need to tidy up and be structured. And I think it all comes down to just belief, roles and responsibilities, the willingness to work for each other. I know you're a defender, you got on the ball, you're gone, you're in the final third. I need to be disciplined and come back. So all that, when you talk about the fundamentals of, again, go back to 11v11, 9v9, 7v7, grassroots soccer, it's exactly the same. You played 11v11 game, you play with 2 6s, you send one, the other one's got to say it, right? You can't send the 2 of them, you're going to get breached. It's exactly the same on the sand. We just need to be structured, disciplined. But I loved it. Again, go back to El Salvador. My challenge to them when they got into the final third or in the middle third was, hey, play with freedom, express yourself. And then when they began to express themselves, go back to some of the goals that they scored. Like our captain, Nico, wins a ball at the back, gives it back to our goalkeeper. 2 minutes later, he's up and he's biking the ball into the El Salvadorian net. And you're there to yourself, that was quality. And you watch it back and back and back. Like it's an ESPN top 10 Sports Center highlight reel. Like it was phenomenal. And they're just the little pieces that if you just start making little tweaks and just little changes, especially with players like him having the ability to go and do things like that, special players, then you're going to put yourself into a good spot.
So this team's the defending champions in Concacaf. You've got to go defend your title, and that's qualification for the World Cup. I know the cycle's a little bit different. The last World Cup was delayed, so it feels like a shorter period of time. Does that in some ways help you that you've had a little bit more competitive action here in this time frame with a World Cup last year or earlier this year, and now another World Cup next year?
Yes and no. Yes, because there's a group of players that were at the World Cup that when I got this position, I've been on the phone, right? And we've had calls and we've been like, hey, this is our plan. This is what the next X amount of months look like. And every single one of them, the same message. It was like, we're hurting because we feel we left something on the sand. And it's like the longer you leave it, the more you get over it. The shorter it is, it's in here. And these guys just want to get out and they want to make things right. And so for me, having that short cycle is a yes, it's a bonus. The difficult piece of it is that, again, with the core, which are indoor players, you're looking at a World Cup. You're looking at probably Concacaf in end of February, March. I think it's March. And that's around the time indoors will be coming towards fighting for playoff spots. And then you're looking at the beginning of May. I think it's like the 1st to the 11th of May in the Seychelles is the World Cup. So when we all spoke, I think planning is a huge piece of this short window. And planning that logistically, the guys know months in advance. Okay, this is our dates, this is our dates, this is our dates, boom, boom, and all the way through for camps. So that we put ourselves into a spot that we've got the core group of guys together for the tournament that we're going to, the 13th to the 15th of December, we go to Acapulco and we play over there. I want as many of our 12, say, that we would bring to the World Cup,
right,
in Acapulco, because again, minus certain players, we have to play maybe a different system.
Right, totally.
And having everybody there, then all of a sudden nobody is like, I wasn't at that camp. What's my role and what's my responsibility? Now, as a staff, if you're not at camp, we have to help you with that, right? It's either a film, it's a sit down, we break things down, because again, the more communication that we have with this group of players, the more successful that we're going to get. But it's a blessing that they're hurting. They're genuinely hurting. They want to get back out onto the side, especially if I go back to like the Italy game. You know, they know they're so close to a team like that. And then it all, you know, it falls apart for them, and they see Italy going on to a final and losing to Brazil. So we know that it's going to be a lot of hard work. We know as a staff, it's going to be a lot of building this team into a group that they've got no fear whether they're walking out against the number one team in the world, Brazil, or they're walking out against, you know, and this is no disrespect to some of the lesser teams that we might have played in the past, but, you know, I've seen the guys being relentless and putting 12 goals past teams. Yeah. That has to be the mentality of when you go out against the best teams in the world. The expectations have to be so high. And I think they're the expectations that are upon us to grow this sport with US soccer. You know, these are the expectations. You're putting a job as a head coach to win. You're putting a job as a head coach to go and continue to build a depth chart, to build a pool of players, knowing that, like, your top 1 to 5, quality, right? Then 6, 7, really good. 8, 9, 10, maybe a drop off. 11, 12, a little bit more of a drop off. In general, let's just, not just US, but let's say
100%. Yeah.
If you can go now with, again, finding these players, whether either finishing college, finishing the MLS, finishing the USL, if they can transition onto the sand, all of a sudden your depth chart is through the roof. Mm-hmm. You know, like if you think about it, if you could pull somebody who's a proven goal scorer in the MLS and has played for our US full national team, if you can pull somebody like that over into the beach world, and they do transition onto the sand in the same way that they were playing, like, you've extended their career. Yeah. You've also brought some absolute quality and depth into your roster. And that's the same with the college world. Mm-hmm. You know, I can go back to my assistant, Ryan Fudagaki, right? Won a national championship at UCLA, played through the youth national teams, and extended his career playing on the men's beach team. So the avenues are there, you know, and you go back to, you know, the training center that's coming into Atlanta, like, that's going to be on another level. And to be able to house and bring the players there, all of a sudden you grow 3-4 inches every time you go, you know, every time you walk into it. You know, it's at Christmas. I remember Christmas, you used to get that brand new soccer jersey, and as soon as you put it on, you felt like, oh, that's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. That's the feeling that you want these guys having every time that they're with this group of players and they're in camp. And I think we'll get there. We'll get there.
It's exciting to see this growth and kind of your plans for this project. I want to end with this, you know, going into another World Cup cycle, that it's a pretty quick turn from now until then. How important is it for the program, kind of for the discipline, for this group to get out of that group stage?
It's monumental. I think it's monumental because I think it's going to grow the sport to another level. It's you want the young boys and young girls following our women's team to know the names of these men and women that are representing the US. And my first experience, again, with these guys, go back to 2022 in camp, professionalism was unbelievable. But my first experience of being with the team going into a proper game was in El Salvador in 23. And I was blown away just with the environment. And if you can recreate that here in the States and grow the sport with the fan base that is possible, especially we go back, especially in Atlanta, like where this new training center is going to be, if we can grow and bring the people of Atlanta to watch us play our home games. If we're playing our home games at the National Training Center, that's on another level, on an absolute another level. And our sport and our discipline is just going to explode. But yes, short cycle, building up the excitement of it. I think the US people will be pretty proud if they tune into Fox Sports or ESPN when we're there, because I can guarantee you these guys are proud to pull on that jersey and wear that badge. And they're going to give everything to get out of the group. And as I said, it'll be monumental for the sport in this country, but monumental for the guys that will put in the hard work in order to make it happen. Because as I said to you, they're hurting and they're hungry. And if we do our recruiting right and help grow and build this sport over the next number of months, it's going to put us into a spot that hopefully the world will raise a head and go, oh, okay, US beach soccer are there. We're breaking into the top 10 in the world. Currently, we're sitting at 15. You want to get into that top 10. And you say, look at Italy are sitting at number 2 and how close you were to them. So nothing out there says we can't do it. It's just going to be hard work and discipline. I always go back to that discipline piece. Can we be disciplined on the sand, and can we be disciplined off the sand as we're preparing to make that statement, get through CONCACAF and make our way to the World Cup?
So excited to see how everything comes together. I'm sure we're going to be talking on SDH along this ride, and really excited to get you guys in Atlanta and get some games in Atlanta so people can see it and experience it and feel what US beach soccer can be. I think there's so much potential, and I just can't wait to see how all of it comes together. Thank you for taking the time, and thank you for telling the story of this team, and we're going to have plenty more stories to tell.
Thank you. Appreciate it.